Well, good morning, Javier. How are you today?
Hello, Greg. I'm doing great.
Good.
Great.
Good. I've got an opportunity to just ask you a few questions about your production of The Sleeping Beauty. It first premiered in 2008 in Finland, is that correct?
Yes, it did. I was
Yeah.
asked to do a new version of The Sleeping Beauty. They had a version for maybe a couple of years before that didn't quite work for the Finnish audience.
Mm-hmm.
And out of the need of having a new Sleeping Beauty, because it's one of the biggest classical ballets that you can get in a company, they asked me to do a new version. And the whole idea of the new version was to make a version that would be more friendly for younger audiences and also audiences of our time.
Mm-hmm.
So audiences that are not used to sitting for so long, that live a much faster life than the life that they lived in the 19th century.
So you've combined the prologue and Act 1 into one continuous scene before the first interval?
Yes, as you know, there is in the original story, there's 4 acts. It's the prologue, the first act, second act, and third act. And that meant a lot of intermissions, which kind of it's very heavy for the audience nowadays, because although you can go and have a drink, most of the intermissions nowadays are between 20 and 30 minutes. So it makes the performance extremely long. That was one of the reasons why the other production had not worked, because it was almost 4 hours. So in order to follow a plot that it's rather simple, right? It's a girl that is cursed. She falls asleep, the prince wakes her up, and they live happily ever after. Of course, there's all this drama. But in order to tell this story in 4 hours, 4 hour times is very long. So what I decided to do is put together the prologue and the first act, have one intermission, and then put together the second and the third act, which made the performance much more compact. I also edited very much each act, because each act in the original version is between 45 minutes and even an hour. And nowadays you have the prologue and the first act, they make an hour. That means that each of them makes 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And I think this worked really, really well. It worked as an advantage for the audience and also for the young audience, because, you know, we have had very young kids, sometimes even 4 years old, watching the performance, which is quite astonishing if you think that it's ballet. You know, some of the sections are very classical ballet, but since the story is, I would say, better told and in a shorter time, kids last really well. They enjoy it.
Yeah, as we've been working on it in the studio, I do get a sense that the pacing is really great. There doesn't seem to be anything that takes longer than it needs to.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, you probably know really well, for instance, the entrance of the fairies. There is a whole section that I've taken away, which is a very beautiful section, but it's a very scholastic section. It's basically where you show off ballet technique.
Yeah.
And when I was editing the piece, I took away the sections that didn't support the plot. So I left some of the sections that are traditionally jewels of classical ballet.
Yes.
Everything that Aurora does, Rosa Adagio, Big Pas de Deux, that has stayed in there because they are the jewels of this ballet. And I wanted to keep this.
But they also progress the story as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. They are part of telling the story. But there are many, many sections, like this section of the fairies. In the version that I need was called Pas de Six, because there are the 6 fairies with sometimes they have this princess with them. And then there is, for instance, a whole section in the third act where they call the jewels. And the jewels is another section where there's variations, and it's the jewels that come to but you know, they don't really have a story. You have to imagine that a diamond is dancing. So it slows down very much the plot. And the problem with this is that many times these characters, they just come and go, and you don't understand. You understand that they're guests, but they don't have an own story.
And since 2008, it's been on stage again at Finnish National Ballet just recently, last month.
Yes, well, I think in 2011, if I'm not wrong, the Czech National Ballet bought it. They saw the version. They like very much the version. So it has been going on in Finland since 2008. Sometimes every season, sometimes there's a break of 2 seasons and it comes back. Now it just came back, which I just staged it in the summer. And it was also in the Czech National Ballet for 3 seasons. They had it, maybe even 4 seasons.
Yeah. And every time it goes on stage, Javier, do you take the opportunity to make modifications and refresh things?
Not big ones. What I do like to do is look at the dancers I have and then enhance whatever steps they're doing so that they suit them better. I am not very attached to having a certain step if it doesn't favor the dancer. Mm-hmm. So I am very open to not changing a whole section of choreography. For instance, as you know, in ballet, we have people that turn better to the right and to the left. And in some sections, I say, I'm sorry, but it just doesn't work. We just change to the right. Mm-hmm. Whether in some other sections, I say, no, you can do it to the left because you look better to the left and you feel more comfortable. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a compromise that you have to do. But I think it's part of leaving the ballet something, making the ballet something alive, being able to change things according to whom you have. As long as the structure and the story is well told, I think little details like that are not a major thing.
We're definitely looking forward to having you in the studio. I mean, it's wonderful already in the studio having you on Zoom because you're already doing that work with our dancers. It's fantastic to see, but very much looking forward to you actually being in the room with us and sort of making those changes and getting the best out of our company. It's going to be exciting.
I'm dying to be there. I'm really dying to be there. It's, I mean, it's always a learning experience to do streaming work. You always learn to, in a way, your eye has to become faster, keener on what you see because you see it on the screen. Mm-hmm. So it's very good. It tunes you very well. I think it's very good. But there's nothing like human exchange. I mean, there's nothing like the energy they give and the energy I give personally that goes, it's literally energy that flows between one human being and the other.
Thematically, your production concentrates on certain things that other productions of the Sleeping Beauty don't so much. There seems to be, to me, a difference between the way you treat good and evil versus love and fear.
Yeah. Well, good and evil, they're moral values. So like what is good in a certain culture can be good in another, can be bad in another. You know, these are just things. There is kind of a profound, deep knowledge of what's good and bad. But if I go to the extreme, in certain cultures, killing is bad. And in certain other cultures, even in our days, it's not bad. It depends on why you do it. Mm-hmm. So when you deal with good and evil, the perception is a little bit wider and the area is a little bit grayer. Mm-hmm. But when you speak about love and fear, which is what I decided to do, change this concept of good and evil for love and fear, you're speaking about human emotions. And although there might be different descriptions of what love is, the feeling that humans feel when they feel love, it's universal. So I think they are much straightforward. They're much more into the heart of people.
And that sort of non-verbal communication and that human language is why people go to see live theatre and dance.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And dance, I mean, that's one of the things that dance is good at. We are able to project fear or love with movement, joy.
Any other thoughts about why you think the people of Perth should come to see this production?
Well, I think it's one of these classical things one should see once in a lifetime. I think it's, besides the work that I've done with it, besides what I can bring as a joy, there is hope in the production. I think it's precisely because it's about love. And if you just relate it to what we lived, we've lived just a terrible period of fear. We've just gone through a long, really painstaking 2 years of fear. We're not out of the woods yet. But this production and the love that dancers have shown in the production that comes out of it, it's kind of a word of hope to where we want to go after this situation goes. So I think that anything that can bring a little bit of joy, beauty, hope in our lives, especially in this moment, it's welcome anytime, because our society is not an easy society. It's welcome anytime. And on top of that, you get to see some very beautiful classical sections that have been with us for over a century. So it's really worth seeing them.
Yeah. From my point of view as the rehearsal director, it feels like a real privilege to be working on this production.
Well, I thank you. For me as well. And I must say, working with you, although we know only via streaming, right?
Yes.
But I mean, there's a wonderful atmosphere in the ballet. And I really feel, I'm very sensitive to atmospheres in different companies because every company has their own life and their own spirit. And I think this company has a very healthy, an extremely healthy and extremely joyful way of working. I can even feel it through the streaming. And I think you, Sandy, Reika, of course, Aurelian, because it all comes from the top. You all irradiate this joy of work. There's also an extreme professional side to your work. You've staged a lot of the sections that I should have staged and my assistant should have staged. So you've staged them, and I think you've done a great job. I mean, really fantastic job. So it's great to work with people that are so professional because you get this sense of peace. Everything will be okay. We will manage a great show. And it's because the whole team is working together.
It was fantastic chatting with you this morning.
Great.
And I'll see you in the studio on Zoom shortly, I'm sure.
Maybe in an hour or something, right?
Okay, yeah, probably. Great.
Take care.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.